Hi Caroline, my name is David. I'm the one who contacted you. And this is Noah.
Hi.
And if it's alright, we'll just speak to you for as long as you have, really. I know you're quite busy, so.
Okay.
Well, anyway, if we could start and jump right in. Firstly, I'd like to talk about your Scrap the Mayor campaign. So you want to get rid of the post entirely because the mayoral system has failed us. So could you please talk a bit about why this is necessary?
Well, there used to be, obviously, we used to have a leader and cabinet system. This is what most councils around the country have. There was in around sort of 2010, 11, George Osborne had this fantastic idea. Why don't all the core cities have a mayor, and they can all band together to fight their cause for core against the government. And so in 2012, 10 core cities had a vote as to whether or not they wanted to establish one of these executive mayor roles. And Bristol was the only one to vote for it. So that left that role and the whole idea of having the 10 core cities working together for a single purpose and to press for what those core cities needed from government a little bit high and dry, because it meant you just had one, and now you can no longer do the sort of powerful lobbying that those core cities would do together. So the next idea was to introduce regional mayors, and that's the metro mayors. And that's what we have at Weka. It's what Andy Street and Andy Burnham are. And they cover a much larger area and have a much more strategic role. So the role that they have is regional transport, adult education, and land allocation for housing. And some of the certainly Manchester, I've heard it said today that Manchester is about sort of 20 years ahead of Bristol in terms of devolution. Manchester and Birmingham have got a lot more powers. So as they get set up, they're drawing more powers away from central government. But those are going at a regional level. They're not going at a city level. So what we've now got is a little bit of an aberration in having a city mayor. And he says that, you know, his role is to represent the city of Bristol on a national scale, but sorry, on an international scale. But the problem is that the basics are not getting done. So the mayor has in his remit, I mean, it's a huge remit as an executive mayor. So they have in his remit absolutely everything that the city council does. So parking, refuse, council housing, and running the schools, running adult care services, literally absolutely everything that the council does is completely under the remit of one person now, and not the council. But he also thinks his job is not only doing all these, all these myriad things that the council has to do. He also thinks his job is flying off around the world, going to meetings, representing Bristol on an international stage. And I would argue that's a completely different job. And the thing is that the basics are not getting done. So we really, I think we need to sort of revisit it. The strategic stuff has moved up to a regional level, and it's time really to think again about whether or not we want it. It was a very, very small turnout at the vote for the referendum, and it was a very narrow result. It was the Tories that dreamed it up and pushed for it, and now the Tories don't want it anymore. Labour opposed it, now they do want it. So I think we need to, after 2 mayors, we need to have a little think about whether or not it's something we want to continue with. I think one of the problems also is that it gives the mayor so much power to overrule the council. So decisions like the arena, so that was the baby of George Ferguson. He didn't sign on the dotted line before he left office. So then we have the current mayor coming in and saying, actually, I don't want to put it there, I want to put it somewhere else, despite a completely unanimous vote on the council of wanting a city centre arena. And it just means that the voices of everybody in the city who votes for their local councillor, who then represents them in council, are silenced because the mayor doesn't have to listen to them. He can just overrule any council decision. So you've basically just got autocracy, and I just don't think it's a tenable situation. We can't really continue. Stuff's not getting done. There is no way to remove the mayor while they're in office. And yeah, they're all powerful. And I just don't think you can be an expert in all of these areas, and at the same time do this flying the flag for the country. I mean, what are you? Are you the flag flyer? Are you actually in charge of all the nitty gritty? And I think that's the thing, that the nitty gritty is not getting done. And yeah.
What do you think the greatest issues that Bristol currently faces are?
I think housing, climate, and the sand crisis, I think, are huge issues at the moment. So at the moment we have 250 children with special educational needs and disabilities that don't have a school place for September. SEND is bad all over the country, but it's particularly worse in Bristol, where at the bottom of the league tables for SEND provision. And it's another reason where the views of the current mayor are overriding everything. His view is that all children should be in the same schools, and that they should be integrated. But if you've got an education and healthcare plan that says that this child cannot cope with mainstream school, why is the mayor saying, well, they should be in a mainstream school? Though, the parents, the child, and the experts who deal with special needs are all saying this kid can't cope with that. They need specialist provision, and there isn't any specialist provision. We've got children. I know someone who's got 2 children with special needs. One gets a taxi every day to North Somerset. The other gets a taxi every day to South Gloucestershire. Council's paying for all of that, and we just don't. We need to have some specialist provision in the city. And for 250 children starting school, or should be starting school in September, there is no place, and that means that these children are being homeschooled, which is just unfair. Their parents can't go to work. They're just being left out of the system, and the council has a legal obligation to provide education for these children. So that is a key one, I think. Obviously, the climate emergency needs rapid intervention. So we've brought forward, obviously, the targets to 2030 instead of 2050. And there are various things that I would like to do, but the fastest thing that you can do is try and encourage people to walk or cycle instead of very short journeys. And for that, what we'd really like to do is just really work hard on a proper network of cycle lanes, which are segregated with proper lights and everything, clearly demarcated from pavements and traffic. not what we've got in the centre, where you can't even tell what lane is a cycle lane and what lane is for people, because it's all one uniform shade of grey. So yeah, that, and it needs to be really joined up. At the moment, it's very piecemeal. And what you need to do is you need to put a whole route in one go, and that's how the superhighways, the bicycle superhighways, worked in London. And what we should be doing is just building all the radial routes, and then and also people could use e-bikes and e-scooters on those lanes as well. So and that would be, if we could just get people to consider using alternative modes of transport for short journeys, then that would be a huge help. The other thing is putting in electric car charging ports, and also electric car clubs, so that people have a choice. It's very expensive to buy an electric car, so and there isn't much on street charging. So we, if we had car clubs, it would mean that people could have access to an electric car without the huge expense of owning and of buying one of those cars in the first place. And obviously we know that most people don't use their cars for vast periods of time. So if we could actually give people the choice, where not that we're asking people not to have a car, but we're giving them the choice, a very real choice of, well, here's an alternative. You can spend £300 a month on your car finance, or you could spend £30 a month and be in a car club. I don't know if that's the money, but it's, you know, it will be that kind of thing, and we'd need to obviously make sure that there were enough of them, and that there were things like kid seats and things in them, so that you know, everybody's needs are accounted for. So those are things that are fairly quick wins. The other things are, we would like to plant 500,000 trees a year for the next 20 years. We want to create a green corridor along the M32. Everywhere, every development that happens, we would like it to incorporate biodiversity, green spaces and trees. You can get this paint that absorbs pollution, and I think we should be giving that free to our street artists and saying, go for your life. You know, let's put up this paint. I mean, I need to know a little bit more about it. I don't know whether you need to then sort of chip it off and dispose of it somewhere, or whether you can just keep painting over it. But apparently it's really good stuff. So I'd be really, really interested in getting people using that. And then on a bigger, longer term climate agenda, I'd like to revitalise the Avon barrage. So we need it anyway for flood defences for the city centre. So if we put the barrage in, we can also make use of the tidal power. The Avon has the second largest tidal range in the world, and I think we should be making use of it. It's regular, it happens twice a day, you know exactly when it's going to happen. You know, we don't have any problems of like not windy days or not sunny days. The tide is always there. So I think it's a travesty that we're not making use of tidal power. The Avon, the impact of an Avon barrage wouldn't be like it would be on the Severn, because we've already got the floating dock anyway. So it's not like we're cutting off the flow or anything like that. We also would like to do tidal lagoons in the Severn estuary, which we'd have to work with all the other local authorities to do that. They are slightly, you know, they're less problematic than a barrage on the Severn would be. And then the other thing about using tidal power would be that we could build a hydrogen plant. And because you know, one of the things about producing hydrogen for energy is that it's quite energy intensive, But if you've got energy coming from your tidal plants, then you've got it there ready. So then you can be creating electricity and also producing a fuel. And I would like to be doing that in conjunction with the aviation industry, so that we can get the aviation industry working towards hydrogen aviation. And I think Bristol is the perfect place for us to do that. We've got a history of aviation in the city, a history of aviation innovation. We've got all the aviation boffins here. We've got the people, we've got the history, and we've actually got a fantastic geography that allows us to do it. I just think it's something that we've missed and we could have started on a long time ago. So that's the climate piece. The next is housing. So I would want to suspend right to buy. So at the moment, because we're selling off council houses faster than they're being built. And people say, oh, well, it's very popular and it's a great leveler, but it's not, because you have to get to the top of that council house queue in order to get the right to buy that house cheap. And there's a hell of a lot of people in private rented that don't have that opportunity. And there's 14,000 people on the waiting list that don't have that opportunity. So the equanimity for me is just not there. I think it's possible we could look at it and say, well, if you buy it, you can't sell it. I think you can't sell it within 5 years, but then we could also, give the council the right to buy it back at the same price or something, or look again at what the discounts are. But at the moment, the crisis is so deep that I think we probably need to just suspend it. And Scotland and Wales have suspended right to buy, and I think that's the way to go in the current crisis. The other thing we want to do is get the universities to take more responsibility for housing their students, and they keep on expanding, they keep on taking the fees, but the housing for students is going into, it's using up family housing stock. So it would be much better if students were housed in purpose-built student accommodation. And I think the universities really, really need to be better at that. I know when I went to university, it'd be so much better if you just knew that you could have student housing for your whole 3 years at uni, rather than having to worry about trying to find somewhere that you're going to pay for, that you're not even going to live in over the summer. So it's something I think the universities have to take the responsibility for, and they can't just keep on increasing the student numbers without realizing that it has an impact on the host city. And if we could actually get a lot more purpose-built student housing onto the campuses, and then free up the housing stock that is currently in student hands. And also it's the rates as well that it pushes up. I was looking at a house the other day because I was looking to move, and this house was getting something like a 10% return on investment on housing because it had students in it, and that's ridiculous. If you were renting it to a family, there's no way a family could afford to pay what 8 students are paying in a house. So it's really sort of pushing up, and also it's putting it out of the range of other students, poorer students as well. So I think it would be much better to try and ensure that all the universities can house their own students, and then we can free up the housing stock. We can get rid of this kind of market of ridiculous extortionate rents in HMOs, and that would really, really help. And then the other thing is I would like to build proper council houses, and we definitely need to build a lot more of them, but there's also options to retrofit. I mean, we want to retrofit anyway for insulation, but there are lots of buildings that are getting quite old and are, they're scheduled for demolition. There's a housing retrofit company in Paris, and Paris has been doing exceptionally well recently with what they've been doing on the environment and the housing. They are retrofitting buildings and then making them much better, and they can take sort of a derelict 1960s horrible concrete thing and turn it into a place that people want to live in by completely redesigning them and adding in green balconies and roof gardens, and it's actually, they can do it cheaper than you can demolish and rebuild. So that's a win-win. Then you can actually renovate or something. You can there's stuff that you can do, and obviously we do need to be building more homes, but we need to be very careful about what we build and where we build it, and it needs to be truly affordable. And I would say that the council housing is the best way to make sure that we have more affordable homes, because we can basically, then we're in control of the rents. And what we could do, what the council can actually do is build 30,000 homes or something, or I don't know if we've got space for 30,000, but however many we actually want to build, and then sell off half to pay for the others, to pay for the whole build, and then you rent out the rest. So that's the sort of thing that I would like to be doing.
If I could ask one last question, so the Liberal Democrats did lose a lot of support after the 2010 election, but they're regaining popularity. How important could you becoming mayor be in a Lib Dem resurgence, nationally speaking?
I don't know. I think it would definitely, it would make the news a little bit. We have Lib Dems running, obviously, in all of the local elections, and there are a lot of them. And I think that's the thing. We sort of think that this is it's a big thing for us, these elections, but there are so many going on all over the country that it's hard to get a look in on the sort of national policy. But I mean, I'm in a policy. I'm in a mayor's group, Lib Dem mayor and PCC group, actually. And I think any win that we get would be hugely beneficial for the party, and certainly would get recognition then from the national party, and then we might get more support down here to do what we want to do, which is to turn the Southwest gold again. We used to run Bristol for a long time, and obviously, we got hammered after the coalition. So it would be great for me to sort of see the resurgence of Liberal Democratic values.
Well, thank you very much for talking to us.
Yes.
And thank you for giving us the opportunity. It's been very interesting.
Yeah. And best of luck on the upcoming election.
Thank you.